have a constitutional lawsuit on marriage that has been filed. And David Fowler will be joining us from the Family Action Council of Tennessee. That's coming up just after 10 o'clock. But first, make room for the mama.
Mamma mia, here I go again. Mama, how can I
You know, it's so interesting.
Mamma mia, does it show again? Mama.
Sometimes I am made to feel like I'm a shock jock. I'm accused of being a shock jock. Sometimes I'm made to feel like I need to apologize for what we call in Italian homes crap stirring. And when I hear John F. Kennedy's words, I think of Kathy Henners. I think of Julie West. I think of Dr. Bill Warner, and I think of myself, and I think, you know what? Maybe we're all that's left as a last bastion of constitutionally protected freedom of the press. For in the words of John F. Kennedy, without it, there is no real scrutiny. Without it, there is no real debate. Without it, there is no freedom. And without it, a republic cannot stand. And I hope you feel that way, because I know a lot of you accuse us of trying to target certain people who are frankly targeting us when it comes to education. No, education is big. In fact, I thought I'd start with you today on this Freedom of Choice in Education Week. An interesting piece of research that has been done and what it shows. And it shows, of course, and by the way, Julie, you're going to look at this like I look at it because you are me in the female form. But, you know, the notion that anybody is still convinced government can solve things is unimaginable to me. But 60% of the American people have slight confidence or no confidence at all in government to solve the problems of the day, which begs the next question, what do the American people perceive as the problems of the day? Well, number one, terrorism. Number two, healthcare. Number three, immigration. No wonder, right? Obamacare, biggest domestic failure in political history. Wide open borders. And as it relates to immigration, it's not just an issue of national financial security, but our very security. It's the way the terrorists enter. And then next on that list, education. Education. Clearly the government took over education in 1979, and from graduation rates to test scores to the dumbing down of standards to the indoctrination of people, it has been a disaster. And Julie, I suggest that people like you and me, we're not speaking crazy. Most people get it. It shows up in the polls.
Absolutely, Michael. I mean, when you talk to parents, you know, they come up to you at the grocery store, I'm sure, the way they do me, and people are, I don't want to say panicked, but the average person walking down the street, I think, gets it more than most of the legislators in the state. That we I don't want to, are genuinely concerned that our children won't even know the same country that we grew up in.
Well, history's being revised. Civics is not being taught. Error and incomplete and enemy indoctrination is being brought forward. It's an absolute mess. All right, you brought up legislature. Let's start right there. Two bills that we need to discuss.
Okay, and actually, Michael, I want to add a third because it absolutely is freedom of a choice, freedom in Education Week. And so, yeah, can I add one more in real quick?
You can add as many as you want. You're the Mamma Mia. You're the president of the Truth in Education in Tennessee.
You and I understand that you know what, but for a miracle coming directly from the hand of God, it's scary to think what's going to happen to our public schools. That said, there is a voucher bill that's moving through the General Assembly, and I like ESA's Educational Savings Account. I am concerned. I don't have the warm fuzzies about this voucher bill, although I believe in principle parents should be able to select the best education for their kids. The one phrase in there that makes me uncomfortable is, in order to be eligible, you have to qualify for free and reduced lunch. Well, okay, anymore.
Sounds like somebody's hijacking a good principle for agenda is what it reeks of. I get
it. Right, and if you look at some of the just crazy things that have made it into our public schools, many of them have been tied to mandates linked with the free and reduced lunch program. So there may be reason to be concerned that somebody is looking for a way to backdoor their liberal agenda into good
Seems to
private
me that freedom in education should belong to all free Americans, not just those with or without economic challenges. It seems to me
Absolutely.
that if competition breeds excellence, it applies to all. I mean, it sounds like somebody's protecting, hijacking, and then trying to use for their good.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I
So
agree.
that one looks good on the surface, but when you start to look at it, it's like, oh, I don't know about this. So strike that phrase, strike the
By
qualification.
the way, that shenanigan in a state with a Republican governor, a super duper 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 majority in the Senate and House, this is ridiculous.
Absolutely. The second one, and by the way, for parents who say, well, my kids go to private school, my kids are out of K through 12, none of this matters to me anymore. Well, you might want to pay attention to this. There is a bill in the General Assembly this session that would do away with in-state tuition. Just do away with it. And basically, a lot of folks are saying that, well, they're saying, you know, we have so many groups asking for exemptions and asking for in-state tuition. Let's just do away with it for everyone. Well, problem being, the only one of the other groups that I can see nobody having a problem with it is, you know what, if you're a military family and you've just moved to Tennessee and you got a kid that's about ready to go to college, I can't imagine anyone having a problem with that person getting...
Let me cut to the chase, Julie. You're being far too kind. This is a ploy to address illegal immigrants getting access to in-state tuition.
That's basically it, Michael, that when
So have the courage. You have the leadership. You have the majority, have the courage to manage the affair. This is a right that we should have for our legal citizens in our state. There are some that don't qualify. Manage it. Don't take it away for everybody.
Well, the funny thing about that one is that they're claiming that there really isn't any fiscal impact to the state. Now, think about this. Allowing every illegal in the state to attend college at in-state tuition levels, that's not going to cost anything. But allowing teachers to view tests that determine the course of their careers, well, that'll cost you $16 million. It's absolutely arbitrary the way these fiscal notes get assigned. And by the way, here's one other thing. In an election year, a lot of folks don't want people to notice that, hey, they supported or, like Sargent, helped get in-state tuition out of committee, but then voted, or at least it seems they opposed a bill that would allow in-state tuition for military families. Can't have that on the record in an election year, so it looks like they're avoiding the issue by getting rid of in-state tuition, or trying to, for your kids and mine, and that's a huge problem.
What does it tell you in all about the entire Tennessee School Board Association in general, where they stand?
Oh, the Tennessee School Board Association, in my view, seems to be every bit as liberal as the most liberal Obama agenda. They've got a bill that's working its way through the General Assembly that essentially what it would do is call for mandatory, think about that, mandatory property tax increases every 3 years, no matter what, to ensure fully funded schools, because God knows the schools can never have enough money. So if you want to get into redistribution of wealth and you want to ensure it, well, then you just act like no matter what, the schools never have enough money. I mean, at what point, Michael, if we're going to increase property taxes every 3 years, at what point do I just take a wheelbarrow full of everything I own and drop it off at the government office?
At least I'll give Bernie Sanders and his saggy boxers credit. He comes right out and demands that students deserve free education and demands that everybody else pay for it. Here we have a conservative state with a Republican governor, a Republican super-duper majority in the House and Senate, and they're doing sneaky things behind the scenes that basically amount to the same thing. What you're really ensuring is, because people do have feet, you know what I mean? I mean, this is a great lesson they've learned in the state of New York. You can tax the crap out of people all you want till you wake up one day and all those of means now live in Florida, Tennessee, and Texas. Then you're really shafted, if you will, and there's no way out. So, you know, they're really, in essence, they're ensuring that our best and brightest students end up going elsewhere and probably reside elsewhere once they graduate.
Absolutely. I mean, Michael, as far as the in-state tuition thing goes, you know, states like Kentucky, states from Kentucky to California actively come to Tennessee and recruit our best students. I had one that was dangerously close to going to the University of Kentucky. And in-state tuition, and by the way, could have gone there more cheaply than going to school in the state of Tennessee. And it was in-state tuition that made the difference. Now, they're saying if we get rid of in-state tuition, it won't cost our local students any more money. Again, like I buy that. But that way, everybody, you know, will get the best students from everywhere. Well, UT Martin can't even keep accreditation, so they're in no position to recruit the best students from anywhere.
We're down to 1 minute. Closing moments with Julie West, Parents for Truth President in Education in Tennessee. It is National School Choice Week. It begins today. There's some 246 events planned for across Tennessee. You know, where do we begin? Again, we got a Republican governor, Bill Haslam, who proclaimed School Choice Week in Tennessee. Yet, what's he doing about it? You know, we have a super-duper majority in the Senate and the House. If we can't get school choice now in Tennessee, and it should be good for all Americans and all free people, when can you? I mean, you know, somebody is not as they appear. But in 1 minute or less, why you would be interested in having school choice and this ultimate freedom, and what we think it would mean for not just better education, better preparation for higher education, better preparation for the workforce, but a better economy in Tennessee as well.
Well, competition always breeds success. If I went to a business and 75% of the time they produced a failing product, meaning, you know, students who can't read, who can't function, which, by the way, I'm not going to put on teachers. I'm going to put on the nonsense standards we have. But if that continued to happen, if I lived in a poor community where I was zoned for a school that's got black mold growing up the walls, I should have the opportunity, as a matter of freedom, to make the best possible choice for my own child. Because guess what? The tax dollars and the children are mine, and I shouldn't have to ask the government's permission, especially when they have demonstrated for decades that they don't know how to do it.
From a voucher bill being hijacked to in-state tuition being kicked around to freedom in education, something stinks to high heaven a couple of miles away from here. All is not as it seems. Appreciate you keeping an eye on this, Julie West. If they want to follow these stories and others, they can go on Facebook to Truth in Education Tennessee. And if they want to get a hold of you personally,
it is at Julie, the number 4 Truth.
All right. We'll talk to you next Monday or sooner, if conditions warrant. Julie West, President, Parents for Truth in Education in Tennessee. Thanks for joining us.